Marcel Hirscher has definitely broken his Olympic jinx with his second gold medal of the Games, proving that he is by far the best giant slalom skier on the planet. I want to talk about really quickly how Marcel Hirscher puts 2.44 seconds on the second best GS skier of the last 10 years. Now Ted, you can see, making great turns, typical Ted Ligety style, generating a lot of force, creating a lot of power out of the stern. Now look at what Marcel Hirscher does. He's coming inside of Ted at the start of the turn and the end of the turn. He's inside the whole way. The only time he crosses Ted's line is when he's going back to aggressive and inside on the next turn. He's cutting off so much line that he's able to go so much shorter distance over the course of just these 5 gates, and he's able to make up an astounding 2.2 meters of distance. Now, there's no way that you can avoid that situation if you're going that much more around than Marcel Hirscher. That gap that he put on Ted Ligety is representative of a new style of giant slalom that he has perfected. The true magic of Marcel Hirscher's giant slalom skiing is not in his ability to generate speed, it's really in his consistency. He's on every gate the entire way top to bottom. You see here, he comes over the steep part by the slalom start. Christopherson's behind him, and you see he's able to get turn shape up above this very difficult gate. Christopherson comes in much more direct, taking a ton of risk. Now, Christopherson had a bad first run, so he had to take a ton of risk to try to make up any amount of time he could on Marcel Hirscher or the rest of the field. Hirscher just protecting his lead, just going as easy coast mode cruising as he possibly can. Now, Christopherson's able to take the lead at the bottom here, letting everything go. The amazing thing is he's only able to make up 0.04 of a second on Hirscher, who is taking no risk at all. In winning his second gold medal of the Games, Marcel Hirscher produced the biggest gap since Keeley in 1968, proving, again, definitively, he's the best GS skier on the planet.
Talks about the amazing women's Super G race.
It seemed like the race was over until bib number 26, Esther Ledecky, comes down personal best to win Super G gold. I want to start at the bottom with Lindsey Vonn's mistake. Now she comes in carrying a lot of speed. She gets low on one turn and doesn't make the correction. This is a really flat section of the course. Now you can see here, she gets stuck in this position inside, rotated, and back. So no power. She's got all of her weight behind that ski, completely out of position. No chance to make a recovery right now. She gets up and continues, but she loses so much time on the last split, takes her from likely a gold medal to off the podium. Let's take a quick look at the situation that led to Vonn's mistake and also to Ledecky's win. Now Ledecky comes really straight here. She's open and catching air. Vonn's high on the traverse in a nice tuck. Now Vonn carries a ton of speed into this next section. Ledecky, because of the mistake, ends up swinging out wider here, taking a more conservative line. Vonn dives in really direct, carrying a ton of speed. Now she's pulling away right here, but she loses a little pressure off the top of that little roll, and instead of making a really aggressive move and diving in and trying to carry that speed off the last jump, she gets rotated and inside, makes the big mistake that we know likely cost her the medal. Now Ledecky, on the other hand, skied more conservatively after her mistake up above, is in a low position, tucking off the last jump. She opens up off the last jump, showing a little bit of her inexperience, but skis down to her first Olympic gold medal. What an incredible result for Esther Ledecky, who will also be competing in this Olympics in the parallel snowboarding GS. My heart went out to Anna Weith, who lost the gold medal by 1/100th of a second. I want to talk about Super G. For me, the most difficult alpine skiing event. It's almost the same speed as a downhill, but with 0 training runs. Now, visualization is important in any event, but it's particularly important in Super G, where the speeds are so high. When you see an athlete doing this, they're trying to get the rhythm and tempo of the course to build confidence coming into particularly blind turns. Here's an example of a blind turn in Kitzbühel. Coming over, you're coming 40, 50 kilometers an hour, and you can't see the next gate. Now, this is a critical part of the course. You can't afford to make any mistakes. You see Axel here taking a little bit more conservative line, giving a little bit more shape, and comes onto the Hausberg, not perfect, but certainly on the right side of the hundreds and carrying a lot of speed. He's able to maintain that line. Alexis Pinturo coming after him goes a little bit more direct. You see a little bit more direct off the Hausberg Conte and carries a little bit more direct line into the bottom section. Now this costs him time. He goes off more direct, catches more air, has trouble recentering. That's the challenge to a blind turn. It messes you up for several gates afterwards if you don't do it exactly right. Now in the race for an Olympic podium, every hundredth matters. Let's take a look at the bottom of Sochi. Stridinger here, me on the left. You can see he comes down, he veers slightly to the left at the bottom of this run. I go straight for the finish line. At the end, that comes down to roughly 30 centimeters of distance. Now 30 centimeters seems like a tiny margin at the very end. He could have overcome that with a proper reach or not taking a little bit of an indirect line to the finish. Now here, keep in mind, this is a cumulative effect of the entire course of skiing. It just comes down to 30 centimeters at the finish line. Norwegians have won 4 of the last 4 Olympics in Super G. This time I would expect a consistent presence of Norwegians on the podium, but I think Beat Feuz gets the win. Today I want to talk about my friend Marcel Hirscher and the conditions that allowed him to get his first Olympic gold medal. I want to talk about the wind and how it affected the downhill portion of this super combined. Now Bryce Bennett and Thomas Dressen are running the bottom part of this course. The wind is coming straight up the hill, but it got significantly stronger as the race went on. Now Thomas Dressen had been having trouble beating Bryce Bennett in the training runs. Thomas Dressen started 1 right before Marcel Hirscher. Now as the wind increased, you see perfect body position, good turns, Bryce Bennett losing significant time in each one of these segments on the bottom portion. Now Bryce Bennett outweighs Thomas Dressen by probably 25 pounds. So for that size guy to lose that much time with no mistakes on the bottom, you know that wind was playing a significant factor. Now there's nothing you can do about the luck of whether wind hits you or not, but on a windy day, you have to be able to maintain proper aerodynamics. Now Martin Cater here got opened up off a jump, was really wide open, catching a ton of wind, making it much worse than it could be if he was tight and compact the way Marcel Hirscher was able to do today. Unlike most of the downhillers out there, he was able to stay tight and compact, cut through that wind. It's what gave him his amazing downhill result today. Now Marcel Hirscher's fantastic downhill run only got him halfway to the result today. The slalom was going great for him, but he still needed to make it all the way down through these obnoxiously difficult conditions on the bottom. You can see the wind completely obscuring the bottom of the gate and the snow, and that's incredibly difficult when you're trying to be on and off the edges as quick and precise as he is. He did lose time in this middle section, but was able to accelerate after he got through it and power down to the finish line, gaining speed for his first Olympic gold. The combined was the first alpine ski event contested in the Olympics, and I want to congratulate Marcel Hirscher on becoming Olympic gold medalist and joining my club in that event.
In this episode of theCUBE, alpine skiing expert Bode Miller explains how Mikaela Shiffrin can win the slalom competition.
Mikaela Shiffrin has been dominating the Women's World Cup for several years now. I want to take a quick look at how she's been able to accomplish those amazing results so consistently. I want to take a quick look at the bottom half of Zagreb's second run. We'll compare Mikaela Shiffrin to Wendy Holdner. Now they're pretty even at this point. We've synced the video up. Michaela's in the lead already, but she's able to put an enormous amount of time on the whole field on the bottom part of these courses. She's done it over and over and over again. She does that by continuing to generate energy out of the turn. The other athletes feeling fatigue, unable to keep generating energy through the turn and power at the bottom of the course. And unbelievable amount of time in the bottom half, but especially the last 15 seconds, able to generate over half a second on Wendy Holdner here. Let's take a look at Mikaela Shiffrin's positioning in the middle of a slalom turn. Now she's able to keep a really long, straight leg in the middle of the slalom turn instead of getting these low bent positions that some of the athletes are in. By doing that, she can take a lot more of the pressure and the strain of the slalom turn on her skeletal system versus her muscles. That efficiency, coupled with her amazing conditioning, is what's allowing Mikaela to dominate the bottom half of these World Cup courses. Now with 6 wins out of 8 starts this year, Mikaela Shiffrin has been dominant. She comes into the Olympics with a unique opportunity to be the first alpine skier to win back-to-back slalom titles and take her place in the history books. And I think she's going to do it.
In this episode of theCUBE, alpine skiing expert Bode Miller explains the importance of aerodynamics before the Olympic downhill competition.
The downhill course here in Pyeongchang is relatively flat and easy. That makes aerodynamics even more critical than it usually is on the World Cup. We're going to use Kjetil Jansrud as an example of great aerodynamics on the bottom of this course. He's able to keep the arms in and shoulders fairly low, even through the demanding turns and high speed at the bottom of this course. Now you see, able to let the wind flow over the top, the rounded back with the hands really driving forward. That's key. Anytime your hands get out wide or your chest comes up, you catch a lot of air on the bottom of this course. You can't afford that. Now obviously, aerodynamics are important whether you're on the ground or you're in the air. Some of the jumps here are fairly big and fairly high speed. Now you can see Kjetil Jansrud able to stay in a very tight, compact position. The knees are tucked up and his chest is fairly low all the way through this fairly high-speed jump. Now Christoph Innerhofer, off the same jump, got himself completely extended. The poles are out really wide. He's catching a ton of wind in his chest and on his arms. And the fact is, when he lands, he's going to be going much slower than Kjetil Jansrud off the same jump, and that landing speed is critical for the next section. So as we've said, aerodynamics is going to be a key factor. The times are going to be tight, and for me, the 2 guys that stand out aerodynamically in the turns are Beat Feuz and Kjetil Jansrud. I'm picking Beat Feuz by a half second.